Hey everybody, it's your boy Rave. We have got an action-packed show for you today. But before we get to that, we need to hear a few words from our sponsors. Today's show is sponsored by cocaine. That's right, cocaine. Available where fine pharmaceuticals are sold. Cocaine, it's a hell of a drug.
From the world-famous Blackbird Studios, it's the Rave podcast. And now, Rave.
Hey now, I'm your host Rave, a shadowy man who does not exist. Welcome to the show, episode 51, Checkpoint. Now we're going to go over a crazy story, man. I was trying to come up with an idea for the show today, and I couldn't really come up with anything. And at the last minute, I remembered this crazy story, man. I was leaving a Middle Eastern country, going someplace else, and we had to hang out in this airport, and there was a checkpoint. Wow, it was crazy. You're not going to believe what happened, man. And with that being said, you know how this goes, kids. Let's dive in. So a few years back, man, I got to travel. I was lucky enough to travel around the world. And I realized at that time that I should probably try to get as much traveling in as possible right now, because I probably wouldn't be able to do it again. So I went to a bunch of different places, Istanbul being one of them. And if you haven't heard my podcast, Welcome to Istanbul, go back and check that one out, man. I'll put a link in the description so you can find it. So we're in this airport in a Middle Eastern country, and the whole airport, relatively small, it was made out of glass. And what was so cool about that was the sun was setting, and we're standing in this long line to get checked and to get our boarding pass and all that stuff. Me and my buddy Vince, you know what I mean? And we're standing there and we're shooting the shit. I think we were hungover because we partied the night before, and everyone's kind of watching the sunset through this huge glass airport, right? And the sun is very slowly setting, and it's almost like everybody stopped what they were doing to watch the sunset. The line stopped, people stopped checking people in, and we all watched the sunset, you know? So we're hanging out in line, we're shooting the shit, talking about, you know, what we're going to do next when we get to our next destination, and the line starts moving. Anyway, these Middle Eastern security guards, but they weren't really wearing a uniform, just like a jumpsuit. They had big beards, and they had AK-47s. Now, let me say this. If you've never seen an assault rifle up close, it is damn scary. So they come up, they say something to us in Arabic. We don't know what they're saying. We speak broken Arabic, you know, and they say something to my buddy Vince. They pull him out of line, and we think, okay, random check, right? They do it at Logan Airport. They do it at all airports. They'll just randomly pull someone out of line and check you. So they pull Vince out of line, and I'm kind of like, is everything okay? And Vince kind of looks at me and goes, it will be fine, it'll be fine. They pull him out of line. They take him way down to another room, I guess, you know, go through his stuff, ask him a few questions, check his passport. No big deal. He comes back, and he has a strange look on his face, and I'm wondering, is everything okay? Like, he looks kind of paranoid, but he was just scared, you know. I'd never seen him look scared like that, right? You know, a little shaken and startled, right? So he looks at me, and I goes, everything cool? And he's like, yeah, everything's fine. Then they look at me, and they're like, and I'm like, okay, merhaba akadesh, like, hello, my brother, you know? And they pull me out of line, and they take me back to a room, and it seemed like a long walk, and they're not saying anything. These two guys with these AK-47s, man, and they're just walking with me, and one of them puts his hand around my arm to guide me to the room, like, don't try to go anyplace else, we're taking you to the room, right? And I'm like, okay, let me just play it cool. I'm an American, Middle Eastern country, I didn't do anything wrong, I really shouldn't have anything to be afraid of, right? They pull me into this small room, and it really wasn't even a room, it was like a weird sort of it almost like a voting booth, right, with curtains on all sides and a table in front. And they put my bag down, my little backpack I had with me because we were traveling light. And he starts going through the backpack, two guys, and they're asking me all these questions in sort of broken English, you know, and I'm just nodding, yes, sir, no, sir, we're going here, we were here, we're on vacation, we're from America. So they're going through my bag, man. They're unzipping all the zippers and pulling everything out and all this stuff. And they have me take my jacket off and put my hands up, you know, and tell me to spin around. And they kind of tell me to pull my shirt up. And I'm thinking, okay, this is just par for the course. No big deal. You know what I mean? And then one of the Middle Eastern guys, he holds up my leather jacket. Now, the story behind this leather jacket is I'd had it for years, and I had wiped out on my Kawasaki GX450, and when I wiped out, I just went sliding down the road at 45 miles an hour, so some of the stitching had come undone on the sleeves and where the zipper was, so I had stitched back together this leather jacket, right? It was like my favorite leather jacket. And so he holds up the leather jacket, and he immediately goes to where the stitching is and starts looking at the stitching, and he holds it up to the light. He starts pulling it apart. Then he looks at his friend, his security chief friend, and he says, and he says back to him, and I'm going, what is going on? It's just a leather jacket. And I said, no, it ripped, and I had to stitch it. And they both stop, and they look at me. And one of them touches his nose, and he goes, cocaine. And I went, I'm sorry, what? And the other guy goes, hush, hush. Now, hush, hush is their word for hashish. And now I'm thinking about that movie. What was it, the Midnight Run or something, when the guy gets locked up in a Turkish prison? And my whole life is not flashing before me, but my life in a Turkish prison is flashing in front of me. Like, can I break out? What's it going to be like? Oh my God, I'm starting to panic and I'm sweating. And then I calm myself down because, again, I did nothing wrong. And they're pulling on the jacket where the stitches are. And again, they're like, cocaine, hush, hush. And I said, wait, what? And then I understand. They think that I took some type of hashish or some type of cocaine and stitched it into the lining of my leather jacket. And I look at them and I go, no, not at all. Not at all. No. And they look at me and they're talking to each other. They talk to me and they say, sit down. And I sit down and I am trembling with fear, which doesn't happen much because I'm a goddamn hero. Nothing scares your boy, rock hard Rave X. You kidding me? Nerves of steel. They start pulling on the jacket again. Now they're going through the bag more. They're just dumping everything out of the bag. They're looking at every stitch, the front pocket, side pocket. They pull out my passport, put it down. One of them leaves the room, comes back. I kind of like went to stand up to tell them like, no. And he said, sit down. Stay, sit down. I said, okay, I'm going to sit down. Shit, you're going to tell me twice. I don't want to get shot. And they've got these AK-47s that are kind of like pointed in my general direction, and I'm just like, bro, take your hand off the gun, for Christ's sakes. I don't want to get shot in the mouth for nothing. So they are convinced that I have hid drugs in my jacket, and I'm like, look, you can keep the jacket. And they don't understand that, man, because, they don't speak English very well. I'm trying to tell them in Arabic, like, keep the jacket, gift, you can have it. Now they think I'm trying to pawn off a cocaine-filled jacket on them, and they're like, no, not good, you don't say that. And I'm like, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. And then finally, I kind of reach over, and I grab the jacket, and I start pulling at the seams, and I tear it open. And I said, look, have a look in. Have a look in, and you can see there's no cocaine, no hush-hush, no drogas, nothing in there. And I start pulling apart my own leather jacket, and I start pulling apart the seams on my backpack, because I had a little rip in my backpack that I had stitched up. What can I say? I'm good with needle and thread, right? And I rip everything apart, and I'm shaking it, saying, look, see? Nothing. Then they look at each other. Then they look at me, then they look at the jacket, and one of them cracks a little tiny smirk because he sees how scared I am. And I guess he realized, like, I'd probably be scared if I was smuggling drugs into a foreign Middle Eastern country, but not this scared. This is scared like you didn't do anything wrong and you don't know what to do, right? And you're about to crap your pants and probably someone else's. So they put my stuff back in the backpack. They hand me my backpack. They kind of patch my jacket together. I think the guy took out like some tape, like some packing tape, and like folded it in half and put it where I had pulled it apart. And he kind of still held the jacket up, gave it a smell, handed it back to me, and he said, okay, you're okay. And I was just like, I can go? And he's, yes, you are okay, you can go. I put my jacket back on. I sling my backpack over my right shoulder, and they escort me back out to the line. And when they brought me back out, all the Arabic Middle Eastern people there looked at me like I had just committed a horrible crime, man. And I felt guilty even though I didn't do anything. I bring you back over to my buddy Vince, and Vince says, is everything cool? And I said, I think so. And I told him the story, and I showed him the rip in my jacket. And he said, oh, man, I didn't even think about that. I would have told you not to wear that jacket. And I looked at him and said, you think? And anyway, we were allowed to pass. Everything was cool. We made our flight. But let me tell you this. That was scary. That was damn scary, because a lot of people forget this when you're traveling, man, especially if you're an American. You think, oh, due process, they can't do anything to me unless I've done something, blah, blah, I have rights, I need a lawyer. You don't get that in a lot of other countries, man. I know people like to shit on America because we take a lot of things for granted. You don't get due process there. They could have arrested me and put coke in that leather jacket after the fact, and I would not be here right now to tell you the story. I'd be in a Middle Eastern prison. Well, I would have broken out, because I'm like the Black Harry Houdini. I can break out of anywhere. But yeah, man, so keep that in mind, you know. We do have certain rights in America where they just can't pull you out of line and say you're going to jail. Not every country has that, man. You need to keep that in mind. Wow. What a story. Well, anyway, that's going to wrap it up for me, man. I got shit to do. You know how it goes. My name's Rave X, episode 51, Checkpoint. Do me a favor, kids. Remember this. You don't know what you got till it's gone. My name's Rave X. Enjoy yourself.
That was the Rave X podcast. Be sure to click like and subscribe. For podcasts, new music, and all things Rave X, go to youtube.com and search Rave X Music.